Hey, I'm Quinn Slack, CEO of SourceGraph, and I'm here with Aiden. He is from Optic, and Optic is a really awesome way to document and manage APIs. And it's pretty magical, as I think you'll see. So we're gonna run through a little demo of it. I am trying this particular workflow for the very first time. So please think all your best thoughts about demos. And Aiden, before we kick it off, did I miss anything about Optic?
Yeah, I'll give you the sort of the official pitch. We're trying to build something that's sort of like Git, but for APIs. So Git is a great way for developers to manage changes to their source code. And you have nice things like the pull requests where you can sort of propose changes before they get made. Optic is basically looking at your API traffic in your local environment, your test environments, your staging environments, and even production, and basically detecting whenever your API's behavior changes. And instead of just saying, oh, it's different now, it actually surfaces that to you and makes it really easy to keep your API spec up to date. The first step in all of that is just to get a baseline API specification. And for big companies like GitHub, this is actually some traffic we collected from GitHub's API. There aren't always API specs available. So Quinn is going to go through real quick in Optic's new UI and document most of GitHub's API in just a couple of minutes to show you how Optic can take that traffic and turn it into an API spec.
All right, cool. So what I got here is just a bunch of HTTP request dumps from the GitHub API, and then there's a little crawler that would look at the JSON and see, this object refers to this other URL and so on. So it's a bunch of dumps here. And what we're going to get is nicely documented API. So what I did to get here is I just ran API spec from the terminal. API is the tool that Optic makes. And so what I do is, I'm just looking for kind of the patterns in these URLs. So I'm pretty familiar with the GitHub API. And I know that that's the user or org. I'll just say user or org. So done. That's the same one.
Yeah. So it's actually learning the path pattern, and that's how it's giving you that same user or org as you go. So what you'll notice is you start out with like 200 some unique URLs. As you run through this, that number gets smaller because the templates you give Optic for the URL patterns start to cover a lot of the surface area. So that's going to drop down really quickly as we go.
Cool. All right. Cool. So yeah, there's another user or org and so on. So repos here. So, I mean, that's a user or org. And then this one, that's the actual name of the repo.
Yep. I don't know what they call
say,
themselves, repo name or slug or something.
Yeah. Say repo name, that's a user or org.
I think that might just be org actually, because it's for,
yeah.
It's on the dash org one.
Oops. All right. And got a few more. So yeah, here it knows it because for this one, I gave that pattern, and it knows that second source graph is repo name. Downloads, that's a noun and API.
You can actually click both of them, one after the other, and it'll do both of them before you hit done. So
nice.
A little bit faster. And this is actually,
cool.
So this ends up just being something people do the first time when they're initially documenting an API or when they're building new endpoints. Most of the time in Optic, you're just getting a report on whether there's any new behaviors in the API. And if you're doing your job right, most of the time there's not that many changes. So it makes it really easy to manage those things when they do happen.
Cool. It is quite satisfying to click these.
Yeah, all right. And I bet you're down to like 40 URLs now. Like they're gonna go away real fast.
Yeah. Cool. All right, I'll click, and that is number. PRs and issues, they have the same number, namespace. The things you learn from working with the GitHub API over many years.
Yeah, I knew you'd be very comfortable with this one.
Yeah. We
probably could have just given you an text editor and recorded you for like 6 hours writing the open API from memory. But we're just going to make it easier by using Optic.
Yeah, exactly. I'll get those 5 and some change hours back.
Do you want to take a bet on how big the generated open API is going to be?
I have no idea.
I know because I did it. I did it before
Yeah.
we recorded, but it's more than 1,000 lines, many more.
Oh yeah, that is a lot of work. So I'll say license name and source graph, assets and events.
I don't think either of those is a parameter.
Assets. Yeah. Do we have an assets repository?
Oh, you know what? It might be a deployment.
Okay. Yeah. So in that case, those
always,
are API nouns.
yeah, we can always save it for later and see if we see something similar.
Yeah. Cool. I know about. That's our handbook repo. And then we got team/campaigns. We actually have a label on GitHub that has a slash in it.
Oh, interesting. So that's going to
So
be one that will be hard to learn.
yeah.
Yeah, that's like an ambiguous thing in the API that OpenAPI probably doesn't represent too well either, because it takes the path components pretty seriously. You can leave it for now and we'll update it at the end.
Cool. Yeah, with SourceGraph, we have to deal with URLs, and the repo name has any number of path components. So we've felt that kind of headache.
Yeah, it's very cool because it is representing file paths, so it's kind of native. But OpenAPI and Optic also don't really do variable path numbers that well right now.
Yeah.
So is tarball a artifact ID, or is that just a thing that's there? I don't know exactly what
I think that's gonna be a redirect to like a archive download of the tarball.
Gotcha. Okay.
That tag. Commit ID.
It's
kind of cool. I feel like I'm. What's that?
That I shouldn't question the master.
Well, the GitHub API is so well thought through. So I have been an acolyte, I would say. It is. I did learn a lot about API design by just looking through all the parts of the GitHub API, and now their new GraphQL API as well. Mm-hmm. It's pretty cool. A lot of cool patterns.
It's cool how quickly you've gone into autopilot on this. This UI is actually pretty new. We made it to help teams baseline their APIs a lot faster. So like people with hundreds of different endpoints that have been documented before. But you're not even really thinking right now. You're just going through it. That's pretty cool.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's super natural. So this is a label name, and that web app does not have a slash in it. So it's a little bit easier.
Cool.
All right.
So let's go to the top. Let's see how many URLs are going to get documented here. That's 38 unique endpoints. And if you hover over learn endpoints and you click automatic, it's going to start the process of learning everything.
Cool. All right.
And this takes probably around a minute for this one. This is when we make the big bet. So how many lines of OpenAPI do you think are going to pop out?
It's like guessing how many gumballs are in the container. Yeah. I mean, you anchored me at around 1,000 lines, right?
Yeah, I said it's more than 1,000.
More than 1,000. All right. Well, I'm going to wait till the computer tells us precisely. 12,000 lines. See, that is awesome. Like when you do Instacart and it says you've saved 300 hours from shopping. Mm-hmm. I love that it tells you like you just saved a ton of time. That's my takeaway from that. That's really cool.
So what's also cool is as soon as it documents those endpoints for you, going forward, you're never going to have to manually update them ever again. So if you get a feature ticket to go add a new endpoint or update an endpoint, all of that, you just do the work, and then Optic will discover the difference and help you update the spec. So it's not your job to go edit giant YAML files anymore.
Nice.
So these are all the endpoints. You can also name them. So you can give them nice names, descriptions. You can do field level descriptions. And what's cool is Optic will automatically keep these names in sync. So even though the spec is generated and it's automatically updating it for you, it'll make sure that your documentation that you manually give it is always preserved.
Nice.
So that's it. You just documented
Cool.
a huge swath of GitHub's API.
Awesome. So how do
Nice
I go
job.
and publish this?
So there's a couple ways. Can I screen share real quick?
Yeah.
Cool. So the next thing we have people do as soon as they baseline is install the Optic Git bot. And basically what this does is on every PR you open, it'll tell you about the changes that come along with that PR. So you get your files changed in GitHub, and then you also get your API changes from Optic. So before you actually merge your code, you can have that be part of the code review, basically the team talking about what's changed. And part of that is we actually upload the documentation for you. So it'll go onto your private Optic account for your team to come see. So here's an example of that right now. All the extra stuff you add to the documentation is preserved. And we're working on things that I'm sure we'll be talking to you about not too long in the future to make it easy to search across all the APIs in your company and find exactly what you're looking for.
Cool. So to understand this, does it kind of wrap the APIs when the tests are running and then see what data is sent?
So that's actually one of the hardest problems that we've been solving recently is we've got large teams that have baselined an API just like you just did, and now they want to get all the developers on the team to be able to benefit from Optic. So we're doing a lot of stuff that's launching before the end of the year that you'll see that basically makes it really easy for all the developers to handle changes before they check in their code. So we're taking that data from everywhere, from local machines, from real environments, from tests. It's sort of sensory integration to get you a really clear picture of how the APIs are working.
Awesome. So who should use Optic and who shouldn't use Optic, or maybe shouldn't yet use Optic?
Yeah, so the people who should use Optic is pretty much anyone who's responsible for building API endpoints or maintaining API endpoints. Optic makes it really easy to get your APIs documented, and it also gives you a really good safeguard to make sure that unintended changes aren't getting made and published. So it takes just a couple minutes to set up at useoptic.com or github.com optic dev optic. We'll throw both those links up somewhere. And then the people who shouldn't use Optic yet are people working on like protobuf APIs or GraphQL APIs. Right now, we've really focused on bringing a lot of the safety of those two other paradigms to RESTful APIs, but we do hope to cover basically all the different kinds of APIs not too far in the future.
Yeah, cool.
Awesome. Well, thank you
That's
so
awesome.
much for trying out Optic 9 before anyone else did and letting us record it. It was really fun to see you pick that up like within the first 30 seconds.
Yeah, it was super natural. It feels cool to just be clicking on the API paths and having them be cataloged. And I have seen massive APIs and I understand the pain, and this seems awesome. So excited to see it get out there. Thanks, Aiden.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Quinn.